Should we say a wee prayer first, maybe?
Yeah, I'd say our Lord is up there now, looking down on the world, thinking the floods and the famine can wait. For there is a child in Derry who needs me to magically alter the contents of an envelope.
Well, that's very good, Sister Michael. It's very funny.
You said we failed.
I didn't say you failed. I implied you failed.
Why?
Bit of a slow day.
Hey there, welcome back to Pod and Deliver. Tonight, Ruben, we're looking at a TV show actually called Derry Girls. I was just introduced to this show, Derry Girls. It actually ran from 2018 to 2022. I was introduced to it by one of my students. She's always, for some reason, she'll give me some recommendations. In one of my, I think she's in my fifth period class. And she goes, hey, watch the Derry Girls. So I started watching it and I told you about it. And I just love this show. I'm gonna come out and say it right away. It's based in Ireland, Northern Ireland. It's also the backdrop of what was going on from 1968 to 1998. I believe they call it the Troubled Years or Troubles. It's the Irish, the Ireland conflict with England and their whole many Northern Irishmen and women wanting to be free of England and some not wanting to be free. So you have this combat. Some mistake it as being a Northern a Protestant Catholic thing, where not really. It's more of them wanting to be, some wanting to be nationalist and some not, right? And so it stars the show, going back to Derry Girls, it stars, let me see if I pronounce it right, Saoirse Monica Jackson. She's the lead character. Her name is Erin Quinn, and her family is shown throughout the whole series. There's 18 episodes for 3 years. And so it's the Quinn household, but also takes place in a school nearby, a school they attend. And it also, Erin Quinn's friends are predominantly in the show, and with one young man by the name of James. Well, his name is Dylan Lillywellen, and he plays James McGuire. So Ruben, every episode of this show so far I've watched 4 or 5 episodes. These kids are just getting themselves in messes. The cool thing is the backdrop of what's happening in Ireland. So you hear a little history, but also the music. It takes you through the 90s. A lot of the music that's popular when we were young men, right? And so I love hearing that in the background with, what's going on with the history piece. But these kids, boy, they go to this Catholic school, and you got a cussing nun who's the principal. She's very funny, but she's definitely on top of these kids, because these just get in messes. For example, one episode, probably my favorite so far, is with this little dog that the lead character Erin had, that she believed that the dog died. And lo and behold, one day she sees this dog and she chases it, and she thinks it's her dog. And it chases it into a church, and the dog goes on the second floor, and the dog pees. Nobody sees it except one of the friends, and the pee goes onto the Mary, and so they're like, oh my God, the friends are seeing Mary cry, and they believe it. But one of the friends, like I said, her name is Michelle. She saw that the dog peed on it, but she didn't want to say anything because they're trying to escape this test that they're having to take. But anyway, that being said, the whole episode is just them, letting the town know, the local priests know that this is a very holy statue, holy time, and so just them just trying to keep up that lie, and then later on finding out that the dog, Erin Quinn's dog, really didn't die, and the mother just gave it away to a neighbor because it was getting into her flowers and so forth. But just their antics, their communication, their talk to one another. I don't know. It's very Irish, but I was so delighted by it, Ruben. How'd you? What'd you
I
think?
didn't feel the same delight. I think that I like the idea behind it. I think it's unusual to have this idea of this Irish Catholic school, with this backdrop, Irish versus the Protestants. I know they brought up this Protestant concept. You shouldn't go out with any Protestant boy, that type of thing. Mother talking to the girl. So the idea, the promise of it, I think delivers more than the execution of it. I just don't like this humor. It reminded me of certain movies in the 90s, maybe the Full Monty type of thing. Not that that's a bad movie. I just, some of the humor behind it to me it feels like everybody's serious, but nothing is serious. Everything's supposed to be a joke. And there's something about it that just feels false to me. And I'm not laughing. There is one real good bit I saw one episode, and there is a good bit where she was trying to be an individual by wearing a jacket over Catholic, blazer, and then her friend was doing the same thing, and she goes, "Why did you take it off though?" Well, because her mother told her to take off, the jacket over the Catholic blazer. Well, and they were going to do it together, her and her friend. She goes, "Well, I'm not going to be an individual by myself." That was funny. That was a really good line.
Right.
She takes off her jacket over the blazer.
Right.
But it's the bits, they're just outlandish. Like the girls are doing things and saying things that no human being would ever say. And I want to point out another show that I have begun watching. I couldn't put my finger on why I'm not liking it, except to say it doesn't feel real to me. Although the idea is very real. The Catholic school in Ireland, that's interesting. All girl, actually, it's not an all girls school, but Catholic
Oh
school.
no, it is. Just one of the boys goes to it, and there's a story behind that.
Oh,
But yeah, it's all
that
girls.
was confusing. Okay, so it is an all girls school. But I want to point out a show that's in this kind of in the region, not quite. It's Scottish, called Baby Reindeer. And if you watch Baby Reindeer, at least the first episode, I just started. I like it for every reason I don't like this. And I know we're reviewing Derry Girls or Deary Girls, but Baby Reindeer is so psychologically interesting to see this woman and her reactions and their interplay. He's so interesting. He's a stand-up comic who meets this woman at his bar that he works at. And without giving away too much, her fascination with him, even though he's not so fascinated romantically in her. But the psychological insight in that show is something I just kept watching and I thought was funny. I think this other show is not psychologically interesting to me because they seem so fake. All the characters are just playing the joke and they're not playing real people for me. So
Well, I
I
mean,
cannot
yeah.
recommend it for those reasons, but I'm sure by the third or fourth episode there might be something worth watching. For
Yeah,
me, I just couldn't get through to the second episode.
I personally, I think it's worth try to go through the second, third episode. Although I respect what you're saying, just because my wife wasn't in on it as much as my son and I. My son and I were just laughing, and I think part of this channel, we look at teenagers and we look at not just teenagers but education and looking at how film portrays that. And this show, obviously, you have the cussing nun, which we don't always see, which is kind of hysterical. But not only that, we see these kids,
That wouldn't
trying to get
happen.
through their school, huh?
That wouldn't happen. It
I don't
doesn't
know.
feel
I felt
real.
like, what I thought, Ruben? I thought maybe that's part of the
Cussing.
culture, and I just don't know it. Part of the Irish Northern culture. But maybe it's not. Maybe there's. I know it's based on the creator, Lisa McGee. She's a writer, and she created the show based on her life. But you're right. I mean, maybe she just took it to the next degree and went a little silly with it. But yeah, I mean, I like the characters. Like you mentioned that there's an all girls school. There is one young man who doesn't go there, and it's a friend of theirs, James, he because he's afraid that if they send him to the all boys school, he doesn't get beat up because he's from England. Remember, there's this hostile feelings with a lot of people with the English, and so instead of going to the all boys school, they have him go to the all girls school so where he'll be safe. But he's a butt of all their jokes, and they think he's
I
gay and things
I
like that.
guess I guess I want to see a show about an actual Catholic school. I'm hungering for that,
Okay.
not a play on it, not a parody of it. Not that they're parodying it, but it seems to me that they're building the show around their jokes, kind of jokes. I'm not laughing too much, but around the comedy of it, as opposed to let's get some insight. Now, let's talk about for a moment the show Abbott Elementary. You watch the show and you get insight. And yes, it's funny. Yes, there's 1,000 jokes in one episode, but you walk away thinking, I learn what it's like to be in a classroom.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree. I love that show. It's just real because even though they're poking fun at real things that upset
Yes.
us as teachers. You know,
So
I get it. Well, I want to thank the audience for joining us tonight as we looked at this Deary Girls. That was I think you could get it not only on Netflix, but I believe on YouTube, but for sure Netflix. and it was 20, like I said, 2018, 22. Ruben didn't care for it too much. I didn't. I loved it. But go ahead, take a look at it. Have yourself a good evening. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel there, and have a wonderful evening. And we'll see you next time. Bye bye.